Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is HD and I'm making a special video here. This I'm very excited about because for a very long time people have been requesting me to bring back the HD daily ladder, and I'm proud to announce that I am going to be bringing it back, but maybe not necessarily in a daily form since I do work 9 to 5 now, guys. I really don't have that much time to play a good ladder game and then broadcast it every single day. But I will be bringing back the ladder show, so to say, in some way, shape, or form. So I guess I'll call this ladder show number, I think I left off at like 25 or 26 or something, and I'll call this one appropriately starting from there now, but it won't be called the daily. It'll just be, HDreplays ladder number whatever. So I just want to say, first of all, you guys may notice that I am playing on a different account. I'm not in Masters League right now because I have been given a new account, and that's because I am now currently signed on a gaming team called VP. So I guess this is my official announcement video that now I am a part of VP Gaming. It does have Pain User as well as, I'm sure most of you guys know Dopa, who is my good friend, and a couple of other players who mostly are located in the Bay Area. So essentially, we are all now on a gaming team. I hesitate to call it a pro gaming team because we're not like super duper good yet, but we are hoping to become really good. And we are going to be competing at MLG Anaheim. So I decided, hey, it's time to kick off some of the dust and, dust my shoulders off a little bit and start playing. Excuse me, guys, that's my cousin, so don't even worry about him. Start playing some more ladder games because I haven't really played ladder in about, I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't really played it for about a month. I just started getting back into it, and I think I said this in a previous video. I said, the ladder scene now seems a lot more difficult than it used to be. And it's true. I feel like diamonds now are masters, or so to say, from back then. So I feel like even though I am in the Diamond League right now, I just got placed in a Diamond, by the way, guys. I've only played like less than 10 or so games. I am playing, top ranked diamonds. I'm trying to get into masters, but it's very competitive now. Either that or I just suck really bad. So if you guys remember my old daily ladder series, this is essentially me playing in a first-person view, and I'll be talking about the game as I'm playing it, just to give you guys a brief overview of me playing in a first-person view and what I'm thinking, what my thought process is, and what I'm doing. So hopefully this will be helpful for you guys who are watching this right now, if you guys are a Zerg player, or maybe if you guys are Protoss or even Terran. So as you guys can see, I do have, excuse me guys, I have a little bit, something in my throat, it must be a hairball or something. I do have a lot of drones pulled off my mineral line right now, and that's because my opponent opened up with a forge first opening. You guys can rewind this video if you guys want. And you guys saw that there was a forge going down at my opponent's natural. Now, typically, when a Protoss opponent does that, they want to go for the Forge Fast Expand, but you also have to be careful as Zerg because they have the capability of throwing down pylons at your natural and then throwing up a bunch of cannons. So what you want to do is leave one probe or one drone on the scouting probe at all times, and if you see him start to throw pylons down at your natural and cannons, of course, then that's when you want to pull 5 or 6 drones, however many you feel comfortable with, to dispatch those cannons. It takes about 5 to make sure a cannon doesn't go up. So I was able to deflect the cannon rush pretty well, but to a Protoss player, it doesn't hurt too bad because they're able to recuperate their cost by canceling the cannon. So essentially, my opponent really only lost, about 100 minerals, maybe 150 for building those cannons. So he's not too far set back, and of course, I lost mining time on my drones for however long I was dealing with the cannons. Also, you guys might notice in this game, my cousin has been messaging me this whole time. He's been telling me the perfect build, apparently. My cousin, his name is Fadakbiat, which some of you guys might know what that means. Some of you guys might not. There's going to be a ton of comments now, I can tell already, down below. It's a very tasty soup, so to say. It's one of my favorite foods to eat. Me and him used to be pretty evenly skilled. I would say maybe I was a tad bit better, but nowadays he's so much better than me because he kept playing and I stopped. And it just kind of shows that you get really rusty over time if you stop playing. It's really difficult, so I am striving to play as many ladder games as possible, bringing out as many ladder shows, ladder game videos to YouTube as possible, and of course, all of this is practice for MLG, which is coming up in about 3 weeks, guys. It will be in Anaheim, so I hope to see you guys there. Anyways, I am rambling on quite a bit. You guys can see now I did get my third hatchery down to the 6 o'clock. And the reason for that is simply because my opponent went for this Nexus at the natural. Highly unlikely he's going to be attacking, and with my Overlord placed there in the corner between his two Nexi, you can see that he has a lot of probes mining the natural. Now, unless he's a super clever player and he decided to pull all of his probes over from his main just to mine at the natural to trick me into thinking he's been probing up, unless he's actually doing that, then I highly doubt he's going to be attacking me. And so most likely this is the best time to grab a quick third. And you guys can see I'm grabbing that third because a Zerg always wants to be up one expansion over the Protoss opponent. So you guys can see I do have that third coming up. You guys might be wondering, why am I not getting the third at the gold? I just don't feel like the gold is really that good, simply because you have to make roaches to break down the gold. And that kind of sets you back as you're attacking the rocks and you had to invest money into roaches. If you guys notice right now, I don't have any attacking units whatsoever. I might have like 2 Zerglings on the map. And this is typically what I hesitate to say, high level, because some high level Zergs don't play this way, but this is what in general most top tier players do. They will always be droning up, probing up, building SCVs, and the trick here as a Zerg is you want to make sure you have as many drones as possible. You're constantly pumping drones until the very last minute when your opponent is about to attack. That's when you want to start building attacking units. And that comes with timing and practice, and of course, sending in an Overlord to die once in a while. You guys can see I just lost one of my Overlords, but it was useful, it was valuable, because I can see if he's building something like a Dark Shrine, a Stargate. It's very, very much worth it to just send an Overlord in there for 100 minerals. And one thing I probably should have done this game is get my Overlord speed right away as soon as Layer was done. So I'm actually really slow on that. If I recall, I didn't get it at all until a very late portion of this game. So yeah, I'll be criticizing myself a little bit, guys. I hope this will help you guys improve your game, because you guys can live vicariously through me and learn through my mistakes. And that's my hope and goal, to make some more competitive StarCraft 2 players come out in the community. Just don't play against me. You'll know how to beat me. So let's see here. You guys can see I am spreading my creep very, very much. This is one thing that I have been focusing on in my new play style lately. Back in the days, I never really built creep that much, but nowadays I really do focus on spreading creep. It's a very vital resource. Also, you guys notice my opponent was moving out. I can see all of this with my Zergling at the Watchtower, and now I have stopped producing drones completely. Now I'm completely focused on producing attacking units, and this is what I'm talking about. Around the 9 minute mark, that's when the Protoss will move out on 2 bases with 5 or 6 gateways, a 5 gateway plus Stargate, 5 gateway plus robotics facility, and this is when you want to start building units around the 9 minute mark as Zerg once you're on 3 bases. Of course, the entire time making sure I stay on top of my spawn larva. There's a little trick to doing that nowadays. I'll talk about that more after this engagement. And my opponent here leaves a couple of his sentries at the top, so you immediately want to take those sentries out. Those are the bane of Lings and Roaches. Those force fields are extremely powerful, and you want to take those out immediately if possible. So it does look like I was able to deal with this army fairly easily. My opponent does have a pylon there, so you guys can see he's warping in additional reinforcements, but all the meanwhile, you guys can see, if you look at the bottom of my screen, I'm always producing more units. I'm always selecting my hatcheries, selecting my creep tumors, always macroing back at home to make sure I have units continually fueling my war effort in the middle of the map. That is one of the key things about StarCraft 2. Focus on your macro, not so much on your micro, and that'll pretty much take you all the way to Diamond and beyond. Now the trick I was talking about with the spawn larva, you guys may or may not know this, is if you hit backspace, and you can rebind this to something more convenient, it'll automatically select you onto the nearest hatchery, nearest command center, nearest nexus, and you can keep pushing it to constantly cycle through your hatcheries. And so what I do is I use my hotkey for queens, which is 4, and then as you guys can see, I just did the trick right there. And then I hold Shift V, and then I hit backspace or whatever key you guys re-hotkey it to. I use tilde, and you constantly cycle through and click in the middle of your screen, and that makes all your queens spawn larvae on all your hatcheries immediately. And it does take some practice. It definitely does. Sometimes your queens will just mess up and they'll just boogie on out across the map and do something stupid. So that is really frustrating at times too. But with practice, it's a very efficient way to spawn larvae. This is another thing that I've incorporated into my game as I've started to ladder again. That and spreading creep. So those are two things that I'm definitely starting to improve, and hopefully I make my way into Masters soon. I'll be obviously casting ladder games all the time now, along with my pro games. And hopefully we'll be moving into Masters pretty soon. Anyways, you guys can see I am building additional hatcheries, one at the gold and one in the middle. The reason for the one in the middle is simply because you want a macro hatchery. As Zerg, it helps you keep up with your larva production, especially if you miss inject larva. So it is very nice. My queen there decides to betray a drone. Didn't really like that. It was like the black sheep, the red-headed stepchild. Decides to kill it. But yeah, I am getting up to 4 bases right now. My opponent does have the Nexus at the top left-hand side. So he's staying on par with me right now. He's definitely not behind. I would say I'm a little bit ahead, if anything, because I was able to deflect that big attack in the middle earlier on in this game. But at this point, this is all about the macro. This is when you don't really expect your opponent to move out, your Protoss is probably building on 3 bases. And as a Zerg, this is a lesson that I've learned in the new metagame of StarCraft 2. Never let your Protoss get that 3rd base. If a Protoss gets a 3rd base, it doesn't really matter. And this goes for Terran as well to some extent. It doesn't really matter for a Zerg how many bases you have, because the problem is that a maxed out Protoss army on 3 bases is actually stronger than a maxed out Zerg army on 3 bases, or 4 bases, or even 5 bases. And when the two armies collide, typically the Protoss army, or maybe the Terran army, will win, and you'll be constantly funding more, or investing more into more attacking units and more attacking units to deal with that. So, as a Zerg, what you really want to do is trade armies with your opponents before they can get, or if they have the 3rd base, you want to trade armies with your opponent. And if they have a 3rd base, try to deny it. Try to constantly harass it, because you don't want to sit back and let your opponent build up on 3 bases. And now, you guys might be watching me right now and you guys are thinking, why is HD not doing what he's saying? Well, that's because obviously I played this earlier and I'm casting it now, and I'm basically critiquing myself. This is really a problem that, you know, I used to play this way in Season 1, and it was successful, but in Season 2, you really have to be more aggressive as Zerg. You cannot allow your Protoss to sit on 3 bases. So, thankfully I am making some kind of a move out here. I'm attacking those rocks, and I'm doing a little bit of damage. My opponent, though, has pushed out across the center of the map, and that is a large charge lot army. That is a lot of charge lots, and that's actually quite scary. So I need to be able to engage perfectly here to deal with this charge lot army. Obviously, Hydras are not too good against charge lots, and that was probably the worst possible engage that I could possibly get here. Notice though, at the bottom of my mini-map, I'm always macroing more units. All those eggs are more roaches or corruptors or whatever units I can possibly get, but this engagement pretty much went as sour as possible. Unfortunately, Hydras are not good against charge lots, and yeah, that was a pretty bad attack for me. So you guys can see also this is kind of related to the fact that I let him sit on 3 base for a while. He has a maxed out army, and a maxed out Protoss army will usually crush a maxed Zerg army. Now, thanks to the macro that I've been doing, I do have a new army of fresh roaches out and about. I should be able to deal with this ball of Protoss units, but with those 2 more Colossus coming in, it is going to prove to be a little bit more difficult than I had thought. And of course, I'm still macroing on my bases, I'm still pumping out units. My inject larva may be a little bit off here, but I am so focused right now on sniping out those Colossus. Those are really the most important units when it comes to, and there's the spawn larva, but those are the most important units when it comes to a Protoss ball. That's basically VIP number 1. You have to take down the Colossus. So you guys can see I took out all the Colossus, and that's going to put an end to my opponent's attack because he really can't push forward without Colossus support. Now, my queens are... While I was trying to inject larva, my queens decided to burrow themselves, so a little bit of a misclick there, and I was actually really annoyed by that because I had to manually unburrow every single queen and find out where the heck they were. But you guys can see that my game is still very, very rusty. I'm definitely not as good as I was back in Season 1. I've only got, you know, less than 20 games in Season 2, but I am trying to get back up there as quickly as possible, and I hope these videos help in some way, shape, or form improve your guys' game of StarCraft 2. Now, thankfully, I was able to rebuild a decent army of roaches. I am, once again, close to maxed, but this time around, I really want to get some Corruptors in my army, and the reason for that, and here we go, Corruptors coming out. Corruptors are so good against the Colossus. You want, typically, a good number is 4 Corruptors, or 3 or 4 Corruptors per Colossus your opponent has, up to a maximum of about 12 or 13. When you can start to 2-volley or 2-shot a Colossus, that's when you really want to stop Corruptor production. So I don't have really enough Corruptors here. I probably could use a couple more, but realizing that, hey, I need to trade with the Protoss army, I don't want to just sit back and let him macro, I decided to go ahead and play with fire a little bit and possibly make an attack here. But here's the problem. My creep was receded in the middle of the map when he pushed out, so without creep bonus, my roaches are somewhat vulnerable if they get caught by force fields. So here we go. Big engage in the middle. Beautiful force fields from my opponent. Dominator, he splits my roaches in half. My cousins messaged me, why don't you get a bajillion drones? Meanwhile, I am trying to focus down those Colossus with my Corruptors, but it looks like I just didn't have enough Corruptors. I really could have used maybe 8 or 10 more, and that would have definitely helped me wipe out that Colossus army. So now I'm actually in a bit of a sticky situation, despite the fact my opponent is only on 3 bases. Like I said before, in the current metagame of StarCraft 2, if a Protoss or Terran is on 3 bases, it doesn't really matter how big your army is or how many bases you have, you need to not let your opponent get to that point. So here my opponent pushes out with a sizably large army, and unfortunately for me, I just really don't have enough forces to be able to take that out, despite my base count and despite my minerals, or maybe not my minerals, but my resources. My opponent was allowed to get that high Colossus count, and I never really did a thing to deal with that. So I do call my GG. Dominator was victorious, and well, that's, I guess, the end of the video clip because it blacked out right there. But I just wanted to say these latter games will showcase me losing and me winning as well. I feel like only showing me winning kind of skews the game a little bit and doesn't really teach you guys nearly as much. So yeah, that was me losing to Dominator, and I think looking back, the main reason why I lost is because I simply didn't have enough Corruptors. If I had invested more heavily into Corruptors, I would have been able to take out that army much easier. So I hope that you guys take away a little bit from this ladder game. I will have more ladder games to come. In fact, I played about 10 today, and I decided to select the top 3 and upload them. So I will be going ahead to move on to the next game, and that's going to be a Zerg versus Terran. And I hope you guys stay tuned for that one. So thank you so much, guys, and this is HD, signing out.